Good afternoon, children. Welcome to your iLearn Literature English literature class. We will begin with a new chapter today. Chapter number 12, Sherlock Holmes and the Adventure of the Speckled Band. So you must have read or heard or watched movies about Sherlock Holmes. He's a very famous fictional character created by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. So this is a very famous character. He is a private detective, and he is not a real person. He is a fictional character, like I told you about fictional places, fictional characters. So this Sherlock Holmes is also a fictional character who became very famous after Sir Arthur Conan Doyle started writing about him in the year 1887. So this is very long back that Sherlock Holmes came into existence in a book by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle in the year 1887, and imagine till date, till today, we are reading about him, reading the books of Sherlock Holmes, watching movies. There have been numerous web series and television series made on the adventures of Sherlock Holmes. So he's one of the most famous, when you talk about detectives, he's one of the most famous detective characters created in literature. So it is very interesting to read all his books. Arthur Conan Doyle has written a series of books, a lot of very good writing, very good mystery, and the ways which Sherlock Holmes used to investigate his cases were also very peculiar. He had his own style of investigation, and every detective, you must have watched detective serials before also, every detective has his own style, and Sherlock Holmes was also one of his kind in his profession. The way he has been described in the book, he used to live in London, and even his the house he used to live in has become so famous. Everyone knows that Sherlock Holmes, everyone associates with Baker Street. Baker Street is in London, where Sherlock Holmes is supposed to live. So if you watch his movies, if you watch the television series or web series is there on Netflix made on Sherlock Holmes and his adventures, you will really like them. They are very interesting. His method of investigation, his line of thought while investigating any case is very peculiar and very unique to Sherlock Holmes, the character. So he's not a real person, he's a fictional character. So we will begin with this adventure. This particular adventure has been given the name The Adventure of the Speckled Band. Sherlock Holmes is a fictional private detective. Now, these are a few keywords to describe Sherlock Holmes and what he did. So you will underline the keywords as I keep reading. Sherlock Holmes is a fictional private detective. Underline fictional private detective. Fictional means, as I told you, imaginary, invented by the author. The author had, it is the invention of the author's imagination. Private detective, you know, a person who solves mysteries, solves cases which cannot be solved by the police, and he was a private detective, not a public one. Public means working for the government. Private meant that he worked on his own, individually. In his individual capacity, he used to take up cases from his clients. Created by the British author Sir Arthur Conan Doyle in 1887, Holmes is a consulting detective. Another one, underline the keyword consulting detective in the stories. Consulting detective means people used to come to him to take his advice on cases, on matters which they could not take publicly. Like there are some cases like family matters which people would not like to discuss in public. So they used to go to employ a detective to solve their personal cases, personal matters. So they used to come and consult, take his advice, and is known for his proficiency with observation. Please underline proficiency with observation. Keyword proficiency means great skill and experience. Great skill and experience. Observation. He was very good in observing things. His eyes were very quick. He used to take notice of the minutest detail. Forensic science. Again, forensic science. Please underline what is forensic science. Write down. Application of scientific methods. Application of scientific methods to matters of criminal justice. Application of scientific methods to matters of criminal justice. It means forensic science is a science which uses scientific methods in case of it is required in some cases, especially murder cases. So there are specialists who conduct these forensic tests. Okay, so that is a science, means it is a branch. It is a branch of whoever studies, gets into investigation, and detectives, those who want to become. This is a science. Some of them have to study the forensic science. And logical reasoning. You understand, logical reasoning is proper thinking, logical thinking, and thinking in a proper way, which he employs when investigating cases for a wide variety of clients. So he had a lot of clients. The clients came from different classes, different some were rich, some were not so rich, some were like from every walk of life. He used to get his clients. Okay, so he used to investigate cases for these clients. Most of the stories about him are narrated by Holmes' friend and biographer, Dr. Watson, who usually accompanied Holmes during his investigations and lived with him at the address of 221B Baker Street, London. This is the address of where Sherlock Holmes lived. Underline 221B Baker Street, London. You must remember this. These are the minute details which you get in your MCQs also, you may get as a question. So 221B Baker Street, London. This was the home of Sherlock Holmes, where he used to live with his friend called Dr. Watson. So Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson, you will see that they are always together in the novels written on Sherlock Holmes. These two characters are together, and Dr. Watson was a doctor by profession, but he used to live with Sherlock Holmes. They used to live together in Baker Street till they were bachelors, both of them. And biographer, underline the word biographer. Now, Dr. Watson was a biographer, means all the stories of Sherlock Holmes which you will read have been written by Dr. Watson, and they are written in first person from the point of view of Dr. Watson. What Dr. Watson saw, it is he is writing the stories. Each adventure of Sherlock Holmes has been penned down by Dr. Watson, not actually penned down. It has been written by the author, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, but he makes this character, Dr. Watson. Sir Doyle has made this character, Dr. Watson, as a friend of Sherlock Holmes, who is supposed to be writing all his adventures down. That is the style he has used. That Dr. Watson is the narrator of all the adventures that Sherlock Holmes has solved till date. It is written from his point of view, and he is the narrator of each adventure of Sherlock Holmes. Dr. Watson is narrating the adventure. So underline biographer and write down a person who writes an account of someone's life. If you write your own story, it is called autobiographer. Biographer is someone who writes an account of someone's life, someone else's life. A person who writes an account of someone's life. Now let's begin with this adventure of the Speckled Band. This was the introduction, short introduction of Sherlock Holmes and his friend, Dr. Watson, okay, who lived in Baker Street. Now let us get to the main adventure of the Speckled Band. On glancing over my notes of the 70-odd cases in which I have, during the last 8 years, studied the methods of my friend Sherlock Holmes, I cannot recall any which presented more singular features than that which was associated with the well-known Surrey family of the Roylotts of Stoke Moran. Now, As I told you, this is being related by Dr. Watson. Dr. Watson is writing. So obviously on glancing over my notes, underline my stands here for Dr. Watson. Dr. Watson was looking through his notes, looking through his notes, 70 odd cases, 70 plus. That means more than 70 cases during the last 8 years, which Sherlock Holmes had already solved. And Dr. Watson had studied his methods of solving cases. So on glancing over my notes of the 70 odd cases, means 70 plus cases, in which I have during the last 8 years, in which Dr. Watson had during the last 8 years studied minutely, watched over his friend, the methods which he employed, Sherlock Holmes employed. I cannot recall any. That means he could not recall any case out of the 70 plus cases which Sherlock Holmes had solved in the last 8 years, which had presented, means which had more singular features, means such unique points, such unique features, such different, strange things happening than that which was associated with the well-known Surrey family of the Roylotts. So Surrey is a place in England. Surrey is the name of a place. So Dr. Watson, what he's trying to say here is, I haven't seen a case which had such peculiar features in the last 8 years that Sherlock Holmes had been solving 70 plus cases. This particular case of the well-known Surrey family who stayed in a house called Stoke Moran in an area, who stayed in Surrey. Surrey is the name of a place in London, and the area where they stayed was Stoke Moran, and the name of the family was Roylotts. Roylotts was the name of the well-known family of Surrey. Well-known Surrey family of the Roylotts means Roylotts is the surname. It is the name of the family. Of Stoke Moran is the name of the place where they lived. The events in question occurred in the early days of my association with Holmes, when we were sharing rooms as bachelors in Baker Street. The events in question means what he is now going to tell us. The events in question here refers to the points of the case which he is now going to tell the readers. The points of this particular case of the speckled band. The events which happened, the things which led them to this case. Okay, now when did these events occur? They occurred during very early days of when Watson and Holmes had started staying together in Baker Street as bachelors. They were unmarried, both of them, and both of them lived in Baker Street. And it was early days of my association, means it was my initial days of friendship with Sherlock Holmes. Dr. Watson says that it was only just the beginning of our friendship, just the beginning of our association. During that time, this case came up. This case had come up during the period when I had just started associating myself with Sherlock Holmes. This is what it means. It was early April in the year 83 that I woke one morning to find Sherlock Holmes standing fully dressed by the side of my bed. I blinked up at him in some surprise. So he is describing that particular date when this case came to them. This particular case came. It was early April. That means towards the beginning of April. The year was 1983. And one morning when Dr. Watson woke up, he saw that Sherlock Holmes was standing beside him. He was fully dressed. Early in the morning, he found him fully dressed, and he was standing beside his bed. So naturally, Watson was very surprised. As soon as he opened his eyes, he saw Sherlock Holmes standing fully dressed beside him. He was taken by surprise, and therefore he blinked his eyes to see if he was what he was seeing was correct, or he was dreaming. So he was taken in by some surprise. Very sorry to knock you up, Watson, said he, but it's a client. It is a young lady who insists upon seeing me. Very sorry to knock you up means I'm sorry I had to wake you up. I had to awaken you, Watson. I'm very sorry about it. But It is about a client. Client, underline the word client. See, lawyers have clients, doctors have clients, and now detectives also, you see, have clients. What does the word client mean? Client, someone who seeks professional services. So these are professionals, doctors, lawyers, detectives, they are professionals. So a client, write down, a client, someone who seeks, S-E-E-K-S, looks for professional services. Someone who seeks professional services. Okay, so he told Dr. Watson that I'm sorry to wake you up, but there is a client waiting. It is a young lady. She's a young lady who insists, means who is insisting, who is persisting, who is very eager, very keen to see me, to meet me. She is waiting now in the sitting room. Sitting room means living room, drawing room. Now, when young ladies wander about the metropolis at this hour of the morning and knock sleepy people up out of their beds, I presume that it is something very pressing which they have to communicate. Okay, so now Sherlock Holmes is telling Watson that she is waiting now in the sitting room. She's sitting there waiting for me. Now, I think when young ladies see a young girl, if she is wandering about the metropolis, means a capital city or some important city of a country like Delhi, Mumbai, Kolkata, Chennai, Bangalore, all these are referred to as metros. Why are they called metropolis? Because these are some bigger cities, some important cities of a country. So if you find young ladies at this time of the morning wandering about, means roaming around the metro cities at this hour of the morning, means at this unearthly hour, just the morning has just begun, it is early in the morning, and knock sleepy people out of their beds, means she is almost waking them up. She is so eager to meet him that she does not want to waste time. She has come at a time when people must be still in bed. It is not time for people to wake up, and she must be in some sort of a hurry. That is why she has come so urgently to meet me in at this hour of the morning, where no young lady would come wander about the metro and come to meet someone so early in the morning. It must be something important. I presume that it is something very pressing, means very important, very urgent. It must be something very urgent, which they have to communicate. Communicate here means share. That means a young lady getting up at this early hour, coming to meet me at an unearthly morning hour and insisting on meeting me, wandering about means crossing the metro city and coming here. I think there is something urgent she wants to share with us. Should it prove to be an interesting case, you would, I am sure, wish to follow it. So, why did Sherlock Holmes wake Dr. Watson? He told him that I am waking you up. I'm sorry to wake you up, but if this case proves to be interesting, then I'm sure you would want to follow it from the beginning, from where it starts. I'm sure you would also want to meet this lady who has come. If this case turns out to be interesting, I'm sure you would not want to miss seeing this young lady. My dear fellow, I would not miss it for anything. So Watson replied, yes, my dear my dear Holmes, I will not miss this case for anything. I'll just follow you. I rapidly threw on my clothes and was ready in a few minutes to accompany my friend down to the sitting room. A lady dressed in black and heavily veiled who had been sitting in the window rose as we entered. So he rapidly changed into his clothes. Watson also had just woken up, so he quickly changed into his clothes and he was ready in a few minutes to accompany, means to follow his friend to the sitting room. So there, when he went there, he saw a lady who was dressed in black and heavily veiled. Now, a veil, you know, is a cloth covering the face, a cloth used by some women to cover the face. So this was a very heavy veil, very heavy covering she had worn over her face. She had been sitting near the window. In the window here means beside the window or near the window. Rose. Rose means stood up. Rise, past tense rose. She stood up as both of them entered. This lady who was dressed in black, Heavily wheeled, she stood up when they entered. Please underline a lady dressed in black, heavily wheeled. So if you have to describe this lady later on in a question, you have to use these keywords: dressed in black and heavily wheeled. Good morning, madam, said Holmes cheerily. Cheerfully wished her good morning. My name is Sherlock Holmes. This is my intimate friend and associate, Dr. Watson. So he introduced his friend. Intimate means very close friend, before whom you can speak as freely as before myself. That means he reassured the lady. First of all, she had come only to meet Sherlock Holmes. She must have come to tell him something important. So he wanted to reassure her that this is my friend Dr. Watson, and you can speak anything in front of him. Whatever you want to tell me, you can be sure that you can speak the same things before Dr. Watson. Nothing is going to go anywhere. He is my very close friend and he's my associate, means I work with him. I shall order you a cup of hot coffee, for I observe that you are shivering. He also was very polite to the young lady. He saw that this young lady must be very nervous, must be very shaken to come and meet him at this hour of the morning, and therefore he was very polite to her and he offered her a cup of hot coffee. He said, I can observe that you are shivering, so let me order you a cup of coffee. It is not cold which makes me shiver, said the woman in a low voice. In a low voice, she's still keeping a low voice, and she said that it is not because of cold that I am shivering. What then? Then why are you shivering? It is fear, Mr. Holmes. It is terror. Terror means extreme fear. Not only am I afraid, I am terrified. Extremely afraid. She raised her veil as she spoke. So at this point, she took off her veil. And we could see that she was indeed very afraid. So when she took off the veil, both of them saw that her face, from her face, they could imagine how afraid she was, how scared she was. With restless, frightened eyes like those of some hunted animal. Her eyes were so restless, means uneasy. They were wavering. She was, when you are afraid of something, it shows in your eyes. So her eyes were very restless, uneasy. She was looking very frightened. From her eyes itself, they could make out it was as if she was looking like a hunted. That means a hunted animal. When you go to hunt an animal and you are very close to shooting that animal, the fear that would be there in that animal's eyes, that is how her eyes looked. So her eyes have been compared to those of an animal which was being hunted. Her features and figure were those of a woman of 30, but her hair was short with premature gray and she looked haggard. So these are the keywords. First, underline the keywords, then I will explain to you. Underline the keywords to describe this lady. Restless, frightened eyes. Underline restless, frightened eyes like those of some hunted animal. Features and figure of a woman of 30, but hair premature gray, and she looked haggard. Haggard is the key word. Okay, so her features and figure, from her face, from her features and her figure, you could make out that she must be around 30 years old. But her hair was gray, means it had some strands of gray hair, white hair had come, and it seemed that they were too quick for her age. She had gray hair which was premature, means before time, something which happens before time. So it was not the age for her hair to be gray. She was only 30. It was not the time to have gray hair. But if you have a lot of worries on your mind, if you have a lot of stress, lot of tension, then your hair grays faster than it should. Okay. She looked haggard, means she looked exhausted, tired, unwell. Um, like she was very tired. There was her face was looking so tired and exhausted. There was no glow on her face. She was looking scared, exhausted, tired, all at the same time. Okay. Tired maybe because of fatigue, worry. Okay, anything, suffering, maybe she had suffered so much that she was looking so exhausted. You must not fear, said he soothingly. Soothingly means calmly. So Sherlock Holmes told her that do not fear, do not be afraid. Now that I am here, you don't need to be afraid. You have come to me, you don't need to be afraid. So he was comforting her soothingly. In comforting words, he was giving her some comfort. He was trying to calm her down. We shall soon set matters right, I have no doubt. So Sherlock Holmes reassured her that since you have come to me, you don't need to be afraid now, and we will soon set matters right. He did not know what the matter was, but he still told her that we will be able to settle the matter very soon. I have no doubt about it. You have come in by train this morning, I see. So I told you that Sherlock Holmes had a very good observation. So he now asked her that I can see that you have come by the early morning train. You know me then. So the lady asked him that I think you know me. No, but I observed the second half of a return ticket in the palm of your left glove. So see, look at his observation power. He was watching the woman so carefully that he could see that she was wearing gloves, and in the left hand she was holding a ticket, a return ticket. Second half means remaining part of a return ticket in the palm of her left glove. She was holding a train ticket. You must have started early, and yet you have had a drive in rough and dirty roads in a cart before you reached the station. So nothing. This lady has not told Sherlock Holmes about herself, anything till now. But Sherlock Holmes is able to tell her this much, that she has taken an early morning train and she has driven in along some rough roads, some uneven, dirty roads in a cart. You know what a cart is, before you reach the station. So while you had to drive in a cart to reach the station. She looked surprised. How did you know? So she was surprised, obviously. How did you know this much about me? If you don't know me, how did you know that I have traveled in a train, and then you can say that I have traveled in a cart? There is no mystery, my dear madam, said he, smiling. The left arm of your jacket is spattered with mud in no less than 7 places. So he had noticed that the left arm of the jacket she was wearing, spattered means had spots of mud in 7 places. So he had counted also. So he said that is why I guess that this kind of mud spots can only come if you are driving on an uneven or dirty road, and especially in a cart. The marks are perfectly fresh. That means these dirt marks do not look from a previous outing of the jacket. They look very fresh. There is no vehicle except a cart which throws up mud in that way. So he had guessed that from seeing those 7 or 8 marks of spots of mud on her, on the left arm of her jacket, Sherlock Holmes had guessed or had arrived at the conclusion that she had traveled in a cart through a dusty, dirty, and uneven kind of road. He had guessed that much. Whatever your reasons may be, you are perfectly correct, said she. So she said, I don't know how you guessed, whatever your methods of finding out about me, how I came here was, they are perfectly correct, because yes, that is the way I have come. I started from home before 6 and came in by the first train. So she said she accepted that she had started at home before even 6 o'clock in the morning, and she had taken the first train to reach here. So she had come to London from Surrey. I told you that their home was in Surrey. So she had taken a train from Surrey to reach London to meet Sherlock Holmes. Sir, I can stand this strain no longer. Strain means this pressure, this stress, this torture. I shall go mad if it continues. Okay. She's not related. She's not told him what it is that she's stressed about, but she begins her story with these words. That means how stressed she was, how afraid she was, how scared she was. She was in a very serious kind of situation. She started her story by saying that I am not able to take this stress any longer. I will go mad if this continues. Oh, sir, do you not think that you could help me and at least throw a little light through the dense darkness which surrounds me? At present, it is out of my power to reward. No, let us go through this line first. He said, will you be able to show me the kind of light that the darkness I am in? Will you be able to show me light? Because I am in a state of complete darkness. I don't know what to do. Dense means thick. Dense darkness means the thick darkness which is now surrounding me. I'm not able to understand what to do. Will you be able to throw some light? Can you help me? In other words, she wants to tell him that I am in a deep trouble. Will you be able to help me? At present, it is out of my power to reward you for your services. But in a month or 6 weeks, I shall be married with the control of my own income, and then at least you shall not find me ungrateful. So at present, she took the first opportunity to tell him that at present I have nothing. It is out of my power to reward you for my services. So she is making it clear in the beginning itself that you are a detective. I know you charge for your services, but presently I have nothing. It is not in my powers. I have no money that I can pay you for your services. But I promise you that in 1 month or about 6 weeks, I will be getting married, and then I will have control over my own money. And then you will see that I will not be ungrateful. I will repay you. I will pay you for your services, but you have to wait for 1 month or 6 weeks, in which time I will get married. And after my marriage, I will have control of my money, my own money, and then you can I will pay you for your services, I promise you. Please tell us everything about your problem, madam, said Holmes, taking out a small notebook. So Holmes said to her that tell us from the beginning about your story. He took out a notebook. My name is Helen Stoner. Now we come to the to know the name of this lady. So all the description I gave you, asked you to underline, it was about Helen Stoner. She began, I lived with my stepfather, Dr. Roylott, when he was in India. He married my mother, Mrs. Stoner, who was a young widow then. My twin sister, Julia, and I were only 2 years old at that time. Please mark, this is important. They were only 2 years old. So her name was Helen Stoner. She, at present, she was living with her stepfather, whose name was Dr. Roylott. So when Dr. Roylott was in India, he married Helen's mother. Okay, Helen's mother was a widow then. Helen's father had expired, and therefore his mother had become a widow. She was a young widow. That means she may not have been very old, because the children were only 2 years old. So she had a twin sister. Twin sister means both were twins. So Julia and Helen Stoner were twins. Their mother was a widow, a young widow, who had married Dr. Roylott when both of them were in India. Okay, so these two girls were only 2 years old at that time. My mother had a considerable sum of money. Considerable means a lot of money, which she gave to my stepfather on condition that a certain annual sum should be given to each of us if we married. So the mother had a lot of money, and she gave that money to her husband, the stepfather of Helen, but she kept a condition, provided that a certain means a particular money, a particular amount was fixed, which would be paid annually, means yearly, every year, to both the girls once they got married. Okay, she gave her money to Dr. Roylott, provided that he would give both the girls a certain fixed amount every year after their marriage. So this was the condition. This is very important. Please underline. My mother died in a railway accident soon after our return to England. We lived with him at Stoke Moran. Stoke Moran, please underline, it is the name of their house. Name of their house. Aditi, what is it? Okay. So my mother died in a railway accident. So somehow the mother died in a railway accident soon after they returned to England from India. The mother died. So now they lived with him at Stoke Moran. Him refers to Dr. Roylott, and Stoke Moran is the name of their house. Please underline Stoke Moran and write down name of their house. The money which my mother had left was enough for all our wants, and there seemed to be no obstacle to our happiness. So the money which their mother had was a considerable sum of money, was enough to meet all their wants, all their desires, and there was no reason to be unhappy, no obstacle to our happiness. Obstacle means hurdle, hindrance. Underline obstacle and write down hurdle, hindrance. So there seemed to be no obstacle to their happiness. They had no reason to be unhappy. Their mother had left them enough money. It was enough to satisfy all their wants. But a terrible change came over Dr. Roylott at this time. He quarreled with the neighbors and shut himself up in the house. He has a violent temper and great strength to match. People are terrified of him. So now she came to the story that we had we were twins. Julia and Helen were twins, and our mother lived in India. She was a young widow. She got married to Dr. Roylott while we were in India. We were only 2 years old then. My mother had a lot of money, and she gave it to Dr. Roylott on the condition that he would transfer a certain fixed amount every year to us after our marriage also. But then what happened, in a railway accident, the mother died, and they had returned to England, after which their mother died in a railway accident. They lived together at Stoke Moran. They had enough money which could satisfy all their wants, needs and desires, and there seemed to be no reason to be unhappy. But then this is the line which you should underline: terrible change came over Dr. Roylott. Suddenly, Dr. Roylott now changed. He used to quarrel with all the neighbors and shut himself up in the house. Means he would not be in touch with anyone, any of the neighbors, no friends, no one came to him. He just isolated himself, shut himself up means isolated himself. He isolated himself. He has a violent temper. Violent means he used to get very angry very quickly, and great strength to match. That means he was a man of strength. He had great muscle power, physically also very strong, and at the same time he had a very bad temper. People are terrified of him. People were very frightened of him. He has no friends except some wandering gypsies. He allows them to camp on his land. He has a friend who sends him animals like a cheetah and a baboon. They wander freely over the ground. So this is how the life of the two sisters changed after their mother's death. Their father totally changed. He would quarrel with all his neighbors. He had isolated himself. He had no friends. He used to quarrel with everyone, and he had great physical strength and accompanied by a very violent bad temper. And he had, the only friends he had were some wandering gypsies. Gypsies are people who travel aimlessly from one place to another. Nomadic people they are. Nomadic people means those who travel aimlessly from one place to another. And these gypsies, he allowed them to camp on his land. On his house, there was a garden or something maybe, and he used to allow the gypsies to set up their camps there. Camp means they would put up tents and stay there for nights as long as they wanted to. And this was their house. The outside, the maybe the yard or something, he would give them to the gypsies, and these gypsies would stay in their house. And he had some friends who used to give him animals also, like cheetahs. See, who keeps cheetah? Cheetahs are wild animals, and baboon is a kind of a huge monkey. It's a species of monkey. So he used to keep these animals in his house, and the monkeys used to wander, means roam about freely over the grounds, means in the house, in the premises. In the house, the gypsies used to, these cheetahs and baboons used to roam around freely in their house. Okay, either outside the house also, if a cheetah or a baboon is roaming around, how would you feel? Okay, so we will do it till here, do the chapter till here today. We'll continue on Monday. Okay, so mark everything. I hope you have marked everything and written down and noted down the keywords. Thank you.